So today we are doing a private practice power hour session. If you don't know me, my name's Kara Welke. I'm an occupational therapist. I have had my private practice here in Grand Forks, North Dakota since 2018. We provide outpatient therapy in the home as well as have an outpatient clinic. Our primary populations are working with older adults as well as women and men's health. And we do pretty much see adults all the way up. We do not see any pediatrics. And in 2019, started Next Level Occupational Therapy and have been helping therapists start and build their practices since then. And Steve, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Kara. I am Steve Gluck. I am an occupational therapist and I'm the CEO of Hello Note right now. And we've been working with Kara closely to help therapists start their own practice, including starting from zero. If you don't know the first thing about starting a practice, which a lot of the members didn't, that's why we're here to help. Kara is an awesome resource, and we also work as a community, as a network. So we hold calls so we can bounce around ideas and answer everyone's questions.
So we'll start with Laura, Megan, for you guys that are on the call. Do you guys have any specific questions that you want to ask or topics you want to talk about before we get into some of the questions that were submitted? Okay. So while you guys are thinking of questions, we'll start with some of our common ones that we get. So one question that we have, I'll move the questions over here. Do I need to provide, or do I need to be credentialed with Medicare? I hear that a lot of people say that we can't be cash-based practices if we're working with older adults. So this is a common question we get, and we actually have a free course that you can have access to where we go through the different types of business models and talk about the rules and regulations on what you can and cannot do with populations. So I can put the link in that for the person that asked that question. But basically, if you're providing services to older adults and you're providing services that are skilled and medically necessary, then there really isn't any way around it. And we feel that it's in your best interest with how things are currently set up to be a Medicare provider and provide services, you know, with a hybrid approach where when you're providing services that are skilled and medically necessary, you're going to build those through Medicare. If they're not skilled and medically necessary, you can look at the private pay option. And then if you are, you know, there's a lot of other options as far as contracting with other agencies and programs. So you have a variety of payment sources coming in. But for more specific details, we'll just put the link in the bottom for those of you guys that are watching replay for the courses, so you can get more of the specific details and see actually where that information is taken from the Medicare manual. Steve, anything to add to that question? You're muted, Steve, if you're talking.
Sorry, I lost your audio. I don't know if it's my side or your. I hear you now.
Oh, shoot. Hopefully, Laura, did you lose me too? Wonder what's going on.
Well, I hear you now. I
Okay.
heard you before and then it cut off. Now I hear you again. So I
Okay.
don't know if it's my side or yours.
Do you have anything you want to add on the Medicare question?
On the Medicare side, I mean, you pretty much answered it. It is a common question. There's ways, based on the guidelines, you can and you can't. So if it's truly wellness, and you want to treat older adults and Medicare is not gonna accept to the reimbursement, then you just have to make sure that it's truly wellness and it's not medically necessary.
Okay, next question. What legal structure do I need when starting my practice? I have a friend that says that I need to do a PLLC, but I see other practices in our area have LLCs. How do you determine this? Well, short answer is it's going to vary depending on your state. Never go based off of what someone else is doing in another state, and it can be different based on your discipline. So again, it's really going to be based on type of business you're setting up and where you're setting up that business. The most common that we see are PLC, LLC. New York and California are a little bit special when it comes to setting up your business. Steve, anything you want to add to that, especially coming from New York?
Being in, yeah, so New York and California, we have extra kind of timelines we have to give for setting up a corporation. So especially when it's a PLLC or a PC here, it has to go through like the education department to verify licensure and everything like that. And in order to bill and properly have a corporation, you have to do that. I know in other states you could just open up an Inc. or LLC. In New York, it has to be either a PCP LLC, specifically for what we do. And that does take a lot of time, upwards to even 6 months. So keep that, keep that in mind if you want to start a practice, because while you're thinking about it, maybe you want to start at least the process. So by the time you have your business plan or your ideas together, it'll give you time until the company is ready to go.
Awesome. And in New York, you have to have like OT or PT or whatever as part of your name, right?
Yes, so it does have to trail with, I mean, it doesn't have to trail with, it just has to either have PT or OT or ST or fully spelled out.
Okay.
And then they
Yeah.
do restrict you on some words as well. So you can't use, from what I remember, you can't use like best or unique or things like that. It can be like a biased company name. So there's a lot, and those have to be approved as well. So you might think you're in the clear, and then they come back to you and say they didn't approve the name.
So for those of you just getting up and started, again, it's going to vary depending on your state. I know for the therapists we work with, we have a list of different states and which type of business you need to set up for the most part. Otherwise, we connect you with therapists that are already in that state. But definitely don't base it on what one of your colleagues or friend is doing in another state, because it could be different. Next question. I am just getting started and will only have a few clients. Do I really need to set up an EMR, or can I just document on paper or pencil, or just type it out on the computer? Steve, I'll let you take that one.
Sure. So if you're just starting out and you don't have any patients, then look, I mean, I always recommend to estimate about 2, 3 months before your first patient to start the EMR, right? I'm a believer in, even if you have one patient, I mean, maybe if you have one, you don't have to have an EMR, but once you're already in the two patients and more, I really don't think you shouldn't have an EMR and just keep things in Word, because I have done that before. I deal with a lot of clients coming from paper charting, and it's a game changer when you have a system that has everything already inclusive for you and everything just works, right? As long as you learn how to use it, everything's there for you, and there's a lot of automation that helps you spend more time on marketing your services and treating your patient as opposed to having to do notes either on paper or copy paste, and, random files and things like that. Also goes back to compliance, like putting things in Google Docs and Excel. That's not going to trigger 8-minute rules and progress note alerts, you know, plan of care, signatures. It's not going to integrate with e-faxing and things like that. So I definitely think if you have more than one patient, then definitely, and again, when I say definitely, I really mean that the cost of the EMR is not a big burden, right? There's not that much that you're paying for. Like one billable visit, it knocks out your whole EMR and billing cost at least, you know? So it's definitely worth it. And especially if you're seeing a patient twice a week or 3 times a week, then I think it's a no-brainer. But I do understand if you're not ready or fully committed and you don't know what the future holds, you don't know how many patients you're going to see, you might want to consider, well, you know what? Let me get my first patient and then I will sign up to an EMR. And that's fine, right? You don't have to sign up early. I only say just sign up at least a month to 2 months before, depending on how computer savvy you are, because you don't want to start getting referrals and then now you're panicking because you have to learn how to use the EMR. And I've had clients with those situations where, they went from zero to like 50 referrals in a month. They really upped their marketing game. They found few providers around their area and they just started to get referrals. And they had no idea how to check eligibility. And out of those 50, it doesn't mean that they could see everybody, because a lot of them were commercial plans. But once the referrals come in, you don't want to turn down the patients, and you definitely don't want to turn down your referring sources because then they're just going to stop sending you referrals. So that's the only thing I recommend is just at least sign up at least 1 month before you anticipate your first patients or referrals, learn the system, and it'll be more smooth sailing from there.
Yeah, I honestly, if you're taking insurance, well, even cash with with the compliance aspect of what we need to do, I always kind of cringe when I see people that are doing paper or just keeping notes on their computer, but especially when you are working with insurance and Medicare, having an EMR like we utilize Hello Note is a game changer because it helps you maintain compliance and meet the guidelines that we need to meet. As far as when to start, I 100% agree. Anyone we work with, we definitely don't start them with their EMR right away. We help them build a foundation and get all of the basic stuff that they need to have in place before they're ready to see clients. And then once they're ready to start seeing clients, a little bit before so they can be ready to go, then we start getting the EMR set up. And actually what we usually do is once we get their Medicare credentialing done, and we teach them how to do their own Medicare credentialing. But once that's done, or if they're, credentialing with other insurances and so forth, once that's done, we have them get their EMR set up so we can get the clearinghouse connected, and make that process a little more smooth for everyone. For those of you that just joined, if you have questions, feel free to just put them in the chat, or there is a Q&A section as well. We're currently going off a list of questions that were submitted to us for those that weren't able to join live today. I am starting my business, but I am having a difficult time picking my name. Do you have any suggestions? Steve, I'll let you start with this one.
Difficult time with the name. I mean, honestly, I don't know. It has to be something that is unique to you. Just don't use the word unique in New York, for your business. But it really has to align with what you're providing, right? Because sometimes we do have clinic owners we speak to, and they're like, "Oh, I wish I could change my name, my business name," because after like a year goes by, they realize maybe they're niching in something that they didn't think they would be. And for marketing and for just kind of essentially you and your company name are like a walking business card. So your name really means a lot, right? Especially if you're not happy with it, you're kind of stuck with it, especially if you're credentialed, because then you have to file for changing the name. You can do a DBA, but again, that's also a headache to do. And then you have to change all of that with the insurances, all the stuff you already have online, the social media, any printed materials, all of that stuff. So if you're not sure about the name, don't just jump and pick a name. I do recommend spend a little bit of time thinking about a name that aligns with you and make sure you're happy with it. Um, yeah, I mean, I can't really say, okay, use this or that. We have a lot of clients that have such similar names, but you could, I'm sure, get a lot of ideas from Kara on names. But at the end of the day, just pick a name that aligns with what you're going to be doing in the future, because you don't want to have to go the route of changing your business name.
Yeah, 100%. So my name for my therapy business is Home Therapy Solutions. And a few things with that. One, we have a clinic space now. We also do not just treat older adults. We treat, women postpartum and so forth. And our names doesn't really fit necessarily what we do. And I never would have thought in a million years that I would have a clinic or not be treating just older adults. So you want to think about long term, and then also think about be not just your name, but also think about what your domain name is going to be, how it impacts your email, and so forth as well. So, like my domain name is also hometherapysolutionsnd.com. So, my email is Kara at hometherapysolutionsnd.com, which is way too long. So a lot of different things that come together when you're creating your name, but also don't spend a ton of time on it either. So one of the very first things we do when we're helping therapists start and build their business is help them come up with their name. Our systems coach actually works with them on coming up with a domain name that fits well with them too. That also will help in the future with SEO, findability, things like that. Google for other people in your area, other people that have the same name. Make sure you check your state registration. Try and think of some other tips. We've been doing a lot of helping with names lately with a lot of new business owners. Laura, your name has actually come up lately. I've shared the ideas of what you did. So Laura is DRM Wellness. And I need to pull this up so I can see the full chat. Because we develop skills, restore functional, maintain wellness, it covers everything. But your DRM, what does that stand for? I actually went recently to look it up. It's develop, restore, and maintain, right? So I was helping some other people. We were trying to come up with an acronym that sounded as good as yours does. We fell short, but we did come up with a name to meet that. So yeah, so think long term, be open to what you're looking at. Oh, Shannon's on. She just finalized her name recently. So hopefully that helps for you that will be watching on how do you pick your first or how do you pick your name? Okay, here's a question that's also a good one. I've had my business up and running for 3 months and I haven't had a client yet. Suggest how to get a first client. I've reached out to doctors' offices and have met with different colleagues, but otherwise I've not had any luck. Steve, you want to start with that one?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to know what you're doing currently for marketing. What efforts have you been putting in
Yeah, so far
so
it
far
just
to get?
says so far it just said meeting with colleagues and sending out information to doctors' offices is what it lists.
So what type of like how did you send information? Did you fax it? Did you call? Did you email? Did you walk through the door? So a lot of that really matters. Okay, so because there's things that can work, and then there's things that just unfortunately don't work. And no matter how much time you put into it, it just if it doesn't work, then you find another route. Like for example, I used to go and spend so much time going to doctors' offices, waiting in the waiting room, only to for them to come back and say, "Sorry, I don't have time." And that's waste so much time. So then I just decided to use another approach where did a little more calling and scheduling appointments directly. We did some eFax campaigns and so on. So it really matters like what you're doing and talking to colleagues. Also, what does that mean? Are these colleagues that you worked with before? Are these potential referral source colleagues? So just need more info on what you have done. But if you want to start somewhere as well, I would start with your community. Maybe do something like I've done plenty of fall prevention, kind of speaking sessions. I went around in different parts of my community, even outside my community, and I just did a free fall prevention kind of training for the elderly. And that was good because the patients essentially noticed they didn't have as good balance as they thought they did because we played games and things like that. And they brought their essentially they brought the referral sources to me because then they told me which doctor they used to get the referral. We called them and we built a relationship from there. So there's a lot you can do. Just need a little more information.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. If you can provide more detail on what you have and have not done, also as what kind of business that you have, because that makes a difference. I'm not a huge fan of dropping off stuff at doctor's offices or leaving emails. I'm more of a fan of, again, figuring out who your ideal client is, or who's your avatar. Like for myself with older adults, it's the older adults, but also their caregivers, and figure out where they're spending the majority of their time. What's the best way to connect with them and or people that they work with. And then we really focus on creating trust and credibility and establishing relationships and figuring out how we can work together to help improve problems or improve their problem and provide solutions to their problem with that. So we do a lot of joint ventures, whether that be a workshop with other providers in the area. We put on different events as well. We do fitness classes in different community settings. In independent living facilities, so forth. Our women's health groups or marketing for our women's health is completely different than what we do for our older adults. So that population, we've done some cool events with some other organizations like either a yoga gym. We've done some stuff with physicians that specialize in like weight management, things like that. So just how can you get out there and get people to really know and build trust with you? Okay, next question. Do I need to hire a biller? Well, Steve, this one is kind of up your line as well.
Yeah, I
I
love this
say no,
question.
but Steve, I'll let you take it.
Yeah, I love these questions. Like, should I hire a biller? So if you don't know the first thing about billing, so I could ask you, do you know what RCM is? Right? And if you say no, then I would say do not hire a biller. And you have to learn what RCM is, which is revenue cycle management, which is essentially the whole process from claim submission to reconciling the payment for that claim, for that data service. And if you are starting out, I really don't believe that you need a biller in the beginning. I know Kara aligns with me on that. Not to say that you don't eventually don't want to hire a biller, but while you're starting out, learn how important billing is because it is such an important, it's the aside from treating your patient, it is the next most important thing, right? Because that's your revenue. That's how you decide if if you have a healthy practice or not. So if you don't know how to bill, so with the program with Next Level and Hello Note, we teach you how to bill. We set you up with the clearinghouse, and with Hello Note, billing is really simple. I mean, once you get all of the things set up, the actual process for billing is just clicking a few buttons and submitting the claim, and we show you all of that. So there's not much to learn. It just comes more with experience. So get comfortable with billing at least one or two patients. And then if you decide from that point on you don't want to do it, you can always hire a biller, right? But if you hire a biller, you're never going to learn the process. You're never going to know which questions to ask your biller, and you're just never going to be on the same page as far as responsibilities. Because every billing company, they're going to tell you what they will be responsible for and what you will be responsible for. Sometimes they don't even tell you what you're responsible for, and then you find out they didn't do something, and then they're like, oh, well, it was supposed to be done from your end, but you don't know the first thing about billing, so you wouldn't even know what you were supposed to do. So learn the process, bill at least a few patients, and you can always ask questions to us and we'll guide you on, it's denial codes or whatever it is. Usually there's only a handful of denial codes, so they're very easy to fix. Sometimes you do have to call the insurance, but it's just part of the game. And that's it, but we'll guide you on that. So I don't think you should hire a biller in the beginning when you're starting a practice. I think you should use that opportunity to learn what goes into billing and how to submit billing, how to reconcile your payment. And from there, you can make your own decision if you want to keep doing your billing or outsource it or hire internally. And I will tell you, we have many, many clients that just don't want to give up the billing process because they're so used to it and they love being in control of their own billing and finances. They just don't trust anybody else with it. So yeah, everybody's different, but I don't think you should hire a biller in the beginning.
One of my biggest mistakes was hiring out billing too early, and they don't care as much as you care about your business, and it was a disaster. And I wish I would have learned more about billing when we first got going, so I really knew what to look for. So again, that's where like any therapist we work with, we really preach on learning the billing process. And a lot of our therapists, I mean, it can take a lot of time. But a lot of our therapists end up keeping it in-house and then they hire like an admin staff to help. Otherwise, we do work with some billing companies too that some therapists just absolutely hate it or don't have time to do it, and they do hire a biller. But even if you hire a biller, you need to make sure you're meeting with them on a regular basis and you know what you're looking for to keep on top of it. Okay, let's see. Still no questions from anyone live. I am getting started with my business. How much time do I need to dedicate weekly to get this going? We get this question a lot. And it's really hard to judge and give people an idea. And all the people that we work with are all on different timelines depending on what you're doing and so forth. For therapists that are in our program where we pretty much have everything laid out and done for them, they just have to either put the pieces in place or just go through. We have like a tracker where they go through and do each step. And with those steps, it's, coming up with your name, getting your policies and procedures in place, doing your Medicare credentialing, getting your marketing plan, all of that kind of stuff. On average, what we see is about 3 months from completely getting started until seeing their first client. And the majority of those are working full time and doing all of those steps on the side. But we've had therapists that have gotten up and going in less than a month, and we've had therapists that have taken a whole bunch of time. So, if you're going to do it completely on your own and not use any additional resources out there, it's probably going to take you a lot more hours during the week to try to figure it out and do your learning. versus if you utilize someone to help you, then you'll have to devote a lot less time towards it. Steve, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean everything takes time. Everybody's different depending where you are. So yeah, definitely dedicate a timeline for yourself and set up a goal. Like how long do you want it to take? And then, you can collaborate with us and we could tell you if it's realistic or not, and we can try to align that for you.
Next question. What program do you recommend I use to set up my website? Um, so with websites, I know I've created some interesting discussions on Facebook with this question. I personally don't feel you should put a ton of time and attention into website. Just getting a simple landing page and getting something on there, getting your Google business page going. In the beginning is all I feel you really need, because honestly, we have seen people that have spent um, hours on websites, thousands of dollars on websites, and they've never seen a client and made a go of their business. So I feel you should focus more on the foundational components, get everything set up and ready to see clients before you put a lot of time and attention into your website. For therapists we work with, we actually help get their landing page set up so they don't have to fret and worry about it. And it's all customized through our CRM system. And that has worked really well. But again, we really stress you just need a basic. And then once you get up and going, then you can fine tune it. So, and make sure you have a viable business in place before you put things out there. I wonder it'd be interesting to know the percentage of people that were going to start their business that have a website out there, but never really got to actually see clients. Steve, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a believer in having a website because it ties back to search engine optimization, so patients can find you organically. And then you can link within your website, you can actually use the Hello Note widget to put in your schedule, and patients can essentially schedule themselves online. They can sign the intake consent forms and all of that. So, which is really cool. With that being said, is it the most important thing? Probably not. I would say focus more on growing organically, maybe going around the community and things like that. But if you want to kind of do more outreach and spread yourself out a little bit, then I would say, yeah, I mean, websites are important, and it also matters where you're located. So if you are, for example, in New York, there's a lot of competition going on there, so you want to use as many avenues as you can. If you're more in a rural location, there's less competition. You might want to just focus on building your relationships.
Um, there's something I know what I was going to say. Um, when I started, I didn't have a website for, I don't know how many, the first couple years in my business. And we did very well and still are doing very well. And I don't actually put too much time or attention into my current website. But I know Laura, she's just done a website redo, and it kind of is based on what you need and what area you want to market to as well. So yeah. Okay, let me see a few more questions, get back to my list. We had this question, but we kind of covered it. How do I manage continuing with my full-time job while starting a practice on the side? I talked about this a little bit, I guess. Just, if you can, get help. I mean, we have programs that simplify and cut the time down to minimal to help you get up and going. There's other programs like ours that are out there. If you're going to try to do it all on your own, it's going to take a lot more time and be a lot more stressful. We have therapists that start full time and then they eventually go down to like maybe 32 hours, or they look for PRN type positions that they're able to transition to. Anything else to add to that, Steve?
Nope, all good. You
Okay.
said.
Um, let's see, we've covered that topic. Some of these questions are kind of repeats. What's the best way to use social media as a new practice? Steve, anything you want to
Can you
add to
repeat
that?
that? Okay, repeat that?
What's the best way to use social media as a new practice?
Social media as a new practice?
Yep.
I mean, going back to what I said with the website. So, again, depending what type of reach you want, depending on the competition in your area, if it's saturated in your area and you want to have more reach and do more social media so you can get clients from different sources, including social media, then I would say, yeah, it's very important. Um, otherwise, I mean, look, there's different aspects of social media as well. Like and it doesn't have to be in therapy. I'm just going to use like a general example. I have friends that own businesses in different industries, and they are the face of their company. So they put out so much content and just do their own recordings and put it out there for everybody. And then there's other social media that you just pay someone to do some type of text write-up or something like that, or blog post. Everything is different. It just really depends on your brand and how much you are willing to put into it. In the beginning, like I wouldn't say hire a company to do your social media. So I think it would be nice to be more personable, and if you're comfortable with it, record videos yourself and speak to your audience on why they should choose you as a therapist and what you have to offer. So yeah, right now social media is tricky because there's so many platforms out there, and it really depends on who you want to reach. If you're doing older adults, then maybe social media is not the best platform. But if you're niching in younger population that is exposed to a lot of social media, then yes, it could be a better idea.
Yeah, I agree. It really depends on the type of practice you have. So for our therapy practice, again, we didn't use social media at all for many years versus Next Level, our online business. We use social media all the time. Um, the other thing about therapy-based practices, if you're not known in the community, and don't have people that are actually going to see your social media, spending a bunch of time on social media can take away from more important or more relevant ways of marketing, such as getting out there and meeting with people face to face. There are tools that simplify things. For example, the CRM system we use, it makes social media posting easy. We can just post in one spot and it goes to all the different platforms. And yeah, we just see some people are really good at social media and others aren't, but it really depends on, again, your business, who your clients are, knowing what social media platform is best for each particular client, and making sure that you're not spending a lot of time on that because you love to do that, and that's a lot easier than getting out there and actually meeting people and building up those referrals. We've seen that before too, like people like spending time on their website, they like doing the social media content, but they haven't even had a client yet. So again, making sure you're putting your focus where you need it at your stage of the business. Okay, let's see. We covered that one. How do I verify benefits and eligibility before treating a client? So insurance, it can be difficult until you get a few things set up. Once you have your EMR set up, your clearinghouse set up, even your portal with your local, like say for Medicare, your local MAC set up, it's a little harder to verify insurance. But the majority of our therapists verify insurance through their clearinghouse. Or Steve will talk about HelloNote. You can verify insurance right through HelloNote. But honestly, sometimes it's best just to call the insurance company, which can be miserable, I know, to get the insurance information. And just know and understand that it might not even be correct. We make sure that our patients know that doing insurance verification is a courtesy that we provide. We can't guarantee that it's right or correct. Patients really need to know their own insurance information, and they should take ownership of that. But we do it. We do, when we send out the message that tells them what we find, we always make sure to say that it's done as a courtesy. We can't guarantee accuracy, but there are ways to make it easier once you start doing it. However, just know that you might have to call the company. Also, billing companies. I don't know what you're seeing, Steve, but we've seen quite a few billing companies that will not do insurance verifications, but there are some companies, if they're doing your billing, they'll also do your insurance verification. So something to look for. Anything you want to add to that, Steve?
No, it just goes back to what I said about billing. Also make sure you expose yourself to checking eligibility through different platforms, even calling, because there are billing companies that are just not doing it anymore. A lot of them are not. Or if they are, they're going to charge you a lot to do it. With that being said, so HelloNote has its own eligibility checking tool, so you can check right within HelloNote. And we're actually going to be adding an enhanced eligibility check tool as well. And I saw a demo of it recently, and it's actually really amazing. It combines data from different portals to show the eligibility. So we're looking forward to rolling that out. It's in the I would say in the integration works right now. But yes, we're doing our best to make eligibility as simple as possible, and accessible as possible, because you don't want to call insurances and use 100 different portals. So we're trying to combine all of that, and accuracy. Accuracy is really important, and that's why within HelloNote, we actually allow you to save that eligibility check. So if you ever need to show the insurance, like, hey, no, that's, I shouldn't have been denied because it showed this, at least you have some proof on that. So yeah.
Awesome. How do I know if I need to get credentialed with insurance or stay cash based? Do you have any recommendations on what insurances are best? So we talked a little bit about this at the beginning when we talked about Medicare, but it's really going to depend on what kind of practice do you have? Do you have a pediatric practice versus older adults? Do you do women's health versus, dementia? The type of practice is going to make a huge difference. Also, whether you're doing in person versus telehealth. There's just so many different things that go in, and also your state, right? Or where you're located, and as well as your population. Like what we can do here in North Dakota might be completely different than what they do in Florida or California. So going back to Medicare age, huge believer in doing a hybrid practice there with Medicare and doing out of network or cash with other populations. However, there are other insurances that reimburse very well in some states that people might want to take. So, I mentioned this before, that we have insurances that do cover very well, that cover $200-300 a session more than what we charge private pay. And one insurance, like let's just say Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Dakota, they might pay one rate, and then Blue Cross Blue Shield of Colorado might pay a completely different rate. So you can't compare. Same thing with Medicaid. Medicaid in North Dakota could be the same as around the same as Medicare, but Medicaid in Florida might be absolutely awful. So you can't compare from one state to the other or one insurance to the other. It's really going to come back to what type of practice do you have, who's your ideal clients, where you're located. Yeah, it all comes together to determine what is the best option. And remember that you can be out of network provider. Also, don't forget that you can contract. Laura's on here today. She contracts with attorneys. We contract with a variety of different agencies. There's just a lot of possibilities out there besides even doing cash and insurance based. Steve, any thoughts on that? The other thing I'll say while Steve unmutes himself is we've seen a lot of
Sorry.
people that just all of a sudden, or they just get credentialed with every insurance because they think they should, and then they get themselves into trouble because they find out that their reimbursement is absolutely awful. And then they have to try to get out of the contract. So you have to be able to make enough in order to be able to have a profitable business. Okay, Steve, go ahead.
Yep. So yeah, I get asked this question a lot as well. Which insurances should I credential with? And the answer is you have to do your own market research to see which insurances are worth it and popular in your area. Because every city, every zip code even will have something different. So you don't want to credential yourself with insurances that pay very little, or honestly, even if they don't pay little, but you don't get referrals, what's the point? You might as well take them out of network if they have out of network benefits. But if you start credentialing yourself with every single insurance, then what Kara said, you're going to be locked into getting lower reimbursements, and getting out of those contracts are a nightmare. So yeah, do your research. I even recommend calling a few doctors around your area and just ask them which insurances they accept. And they will tell you, they'll do the work for you by telling you which insurances are popular out of that. And if you want, if they're willing to share with you, and you could tell them that you're a new therapy practice, you could say, okay, outside of the ones you're credentialed with, how many are you seeing that are actually worth it for you to be credentialed with? Because a lot of times these doctors are in network with a whole bunch of insurances, and they're not even getting that volume of those patients with those insurances. They just have it just because they've been already kind of having it for a long time.
Yeah, and another thing I thought of when you were talking through that, it can make a difference if you're a mobile practice or a clinic because um, lower payments in a mobile practice, can really create problems because if you're driving a longer distance and you're hard at getting paid anything from this insurance, it's really difficult to make it versus in a clinic setting, if you can schedule people more efficiently and see people back to back, maybe it's worth it. And based off this question, we have a question in the chat. How do you go about learning what you'd be reimbursed by specific companies? So, if you're, for example, with you doing the older adult population, we recommend starting out with Medicare and then out of network or cash for the others. And when you're billing out of network, or when you start seeing clients, you'll get a good feel for what different insurances people have. And then you can do your research on, is it going to be better to be private pay or is it going to be better to get in network with these companies, as well as, collaborating and talking with other therapists in the area. You can kind of get a good idea of what insurance companies might be worth it for your type of practice with that. Um, Steve, any other thoughts to that additional question?
Nope, all good.
Awesome. Okay, I know we're have about 1 minute left for those of you that, and I think we got through all of the questions that were submitted. Um, if we missed something, for those of you that are watching by replay, feel free to reach out. For those of you that are on, do you have any last minute questions that you had that we weren't able to cover? Okay. Awesome. Well, I am gonna stick on just a little bit longer because we kind of had to mess up with time zones and scheduling. So thank you, Steve, for joining us. I know you have a meeting coming up, so we'll chat later. Otherwise, I'm gonna stay on just for a little bit longer, just in case we have additional on that have additional questions that thought our meeting was at too. So have a good
Awesome.
day.
Thanks, Kara.
Yep,
Appreciate it. And
thank
thank you
you.
everyone for joining.